Somewhere on the internet right now, there are markets that don't exist. No Google results, no links, no addresses. You can only get there if you know exactly where to look. And even then, you need special software just to open the door. In 2011, one man built the biggest of them all. A place where you could buy heroin, cocaine, LSD, forged documents, and hacking tools delivered to your front door like an Amazon package. He called it the Silk Road. He called himself Dread Pirate Roberts. And for 2 years, he was untouchable. Then he made one mistake. One email. One moment of carelessness that unraveled everything. This is a story of Russ Ulbricht, the Eagle Scout, the physics student, the libertarian idealist who built a billion-dollar criminal empire from his laptop and got caught in a library. Ross William Ulbricht did not look like a criminal mastermind. Born in Austin, Texas, he was an Eagle Scout, a straight-A student. He studied physics at the University of Texas, then went on to earn a master's degree in material science. His LinkedIn profile described him as someone with a desire to use economic theory as a means to abolish the use of force and coercion. He was a libertarian, and not casually, deeply, philosophically committed to the idea that governments had no right to tell people what they could and couldn't put in their bodies. He believed the war on drugs was a failure. He believed in personal freedom above all else. In late 2010, sitting somewhere between those ideas and a laptop, Russ Ulbricht had a thought. What if there was a free market, a truly free market, where people could buy whatever they wanted, anonymously, without government interference? What if the internet could make prohibition obsolete? He started building. And in January 2011, the Silk Road went live. To access the Silk Road, you needed 2 things. First, Tor, the Onion Router, a browser originally developed by the U.S. Navy that bounces your internet traffic through dozens of servers around the world, making it nearly impossible to trace where you actually are. It's what makes the dark web dark. Second, Bitcoin. In 2011, Bitcoin was barely known outside tech circles. No mainstream banks, no exchanges, no regulation, just anonymous digital cash moving between wallets with no names attached. Together, Tor and Bitcoin gave the Silk Road something no drug dealer had ever had before, near total anonymity for both buyer and seller. The site looked like eBay. Vendor profiles, product photos, customer reviews, star ratings. You could browse listings for cocaine from a vendor in Amsterdam, leave a 5-star review for an MDMA dealer in California, and have a package of heroin delivered to your door within a week, tracked like a regular parcel. The categories read like a pharmacy from another dimension. Cannabis, psychedelics, opioids, stimulants, dissociatives, prescription, ecstasy, and deeper down, forged IDs, hacking services, counterfeit cash. By 2013, Silk Road had nearly 13,000 listings of controlled substances alone, nearly 1 million registered user accounts, and it had processed over 9.5 million Bitcoin transactions, worth over $1.2 billion at the time. Russ Ulbricht, operating under his alias Dread Pirate Roberts, a character from the movie The Princess Bride, was collecting commissions on every single sale. He was becoming one of the wealthiest people on the dark web, living with 2 roommates in San Francisco, paying $1,000 a month in rent, and telling nobody what he actually did. From the outside, he was just a friendly, quiet guy who liked yoga and philosophy. From the inside, he was running the world's most sophisticated online drug empire. But here's the thing about building an empire on anonymity. You have to be anonymous. Completely. Perfectly. Every single time. And Russ Ulbricht made mistakes from the very beginning. January 27th, 2011, 4 days after the Silk Road went live, an IRS agent, sifting through online drug forums, found a post. A user called Altoid had written, "I came across this website called Silk Road. I'm thinking of buying off it. Let me know what you think." It was a marketing post. Dread Pirate Roberts, trying to grow his platform, was quietly dropping links to the Silk Road in drug communities to build traffic. Smart business. Terrible operational security. A few days later, Altoid appeared on Bitcoin Talk, one of the earliest cryptocurrency forums, posting again, telling users the Silk Road was like an anonymous Amazon.com. The IRS agent flagged it. The FBI took interest. Then, In October 2011, Altoid posted again, this time on a programming forum, looking to hire a Bitcoin and IT specialist for what he called a venture-backed startup. And at the bottom of the post, he left his email address, his personal Gmail address, with his real name in it, Russ Ulbricht. In one moment of carelessness, one post where he dropped his guard, he had connected his real identity to the username he used to promote the Silk Road. The same username, the same man. Investigators had a name, and they started watching. But it didn't stop there. The trail kept getting warmer. On a programming Q&A site called Stack Overflow, a user called Russ Ulbricht had posted a highly technical question about how to connect to hidden Tor services, exactly the kind of infrastructure the Silk Road was built on. The post was later changed to the username Frosty. But investigators noticed something. Frosty was also the name of the Silk Road server. On LinkedIn, Russ Ulbricht had listed his interests as Austrian economics and libertarian philosophy, a nearly identical match to the ideological worldview Dread Pirate Roberts had expressed in interviews on the Silk Road. On the Mises Institute website, a libertarian think tank, a profile named Russ Ulbricht had a photo that matched him exactly. The dots were connecting. Then came the final nail. Investigators discovered that Russ Ulbricht had ordered fake identification documents from a Silk Road vendor in Canada. 9 of them, intercepted in a routine border search, all with different names, but one of them had his photo, his real birth date, his face staring back at customs officers from a California driver's license. By September 2013, FBI investigators had him. They just needed one more thing. They needed to catch him in the act, log into the Silk Road as Dread Pirate Roberts, so they could prove beyond doubt that the man and the alias were the same person. They started watching his movements. And they noticed something remarkable. Whenever Russ Ulbricht opened his laptop, Dread Pirate Roberts logged into the Silk Road. Whenever Ulbricht closed his laptop, DPR went offline. In sync, every time. The FBI had the man. Now they needed the laptop open. October 1st, 2013. San Francisco. A quiet Tuesday afternoon. A team of plainclothes FBI agents fanned out across the Glen Park neighborhood, the area where Russ Ulbricht lived, staking out every coffee shop and public space with free Wi-Fi. The plan was simple. Find him logged in, move before he could close the laptop. If he closed the laptop, the encryption locked everything. The evidence vanished. They spotted him. Glen Park Library, science fiction section. He was sitting alone with his laptop open, headphones in. On screen, the Silk Road admin dashboard. Dread Pirate Roberts, online. At 2:40 p.m., Department of Homeland Security agent Jared Dergian, who had spent 2 years undercover, working his way up to being a trusted Silk Road staff member, sent a message to DPR's account from a nearby coffee shop. A routine question about a flag message. Something to keep him engaged. Something to keep the laptop open. Ulbricht was typing a response. And then 6 FBI agents walked into the science fiction section of the Glen Park Library and moved. 2 agents staged a domestic dispute nearby, a distraction loud enough to make Ulbricht look up. In that split second, a 3rd agent grabbed the open laptop before Ulbricht could react. Agents pinned him against the floor-to-ceiling windows. It was over in seconds. Russ Ulbricht, Dread Pirate Roberts, was in handcuffs. His laptop was open. The Silk Road admin panel was on screen. The FBI seized a device before a single key could be pressed. On his laptop, investigators found a Bitcoin wallet containing approximately $28 million worth of cryptocurrency, a detailed personal diary describing his creation and operation of the Silk Road, and enough evidence to build one of the most significant cybercrime cases in U.S. history. A few hours later, the Silk Road went dark. As investigators dug into the Silk Road's records, the scale of what Ulbricht had built became clear. Between 2011 and 2013, the site had processed over 1.5 million transactions. Drug sales alone totaled approximately $183 million. Vendors from across the world had sold cocaine, heroin, LSD, fentanyl, ecstasy, prescription opioids, delivered through the ordinary postal service, disguised in everyday packaging. Federal agents had been buying drugs from the site since its earliest days, making over 100 individual undercover purchases, building a paper trail. But there was something darker in the records, too. Ulbricht, paranoid that an employee knew his true identity and was planning to blackmail him, had allegedly arranged for the employee to be tortured and killed. He wired $80,000 in Bitcoin to an undercover agent he believed was a hitman, after being shown staged photographs of the supposed torture. The murder never actually took place, but the intent, prosecutors argued, was real. There were allegations of 5 murders commissioned by Dread Pirate Roberts. None of them could ultimately be proven to have occurred. But the charges painted a picture of a man who had traveled a long, dark road from libertarian idealist to someone willing to order violence to protect his empire. Russ Ulbricht went to trial in 2015. He was 31 years old. His defense argued he was a scapegoat, that others had taken over the Silk Road and he was an easy target. The jury didn't buy it. After deliberating for just a few hours, they returned a verdict: guilty on all 7 counts: drug trafficking, money laundering, computer hacking, running a continuing criminal enterprise. At sentencing, Manhattan federal judge Catherine Forrest showed no mercy. She looked at Russ Ulbricht and said, "You are no better person than any other drug dealer." Then she sentenced him to 2 life sentences, plus 40 years. No possibility of parole. Russ Ulbricht, the Eagle Scout from Austin, Texas, would never leave prison, or so everyone thought. 4 years after Ulbricht's sentencing, a movement grew around his case. Libertarians, crypto enthusiasts, and civil liberties advocates rallied under single banner: Free Ross. They argued his sentence was grotesquely disproportionate, that nonviolent drug offenses, even at massive scale, did not warrant dying in prison. Petitions circulated. Protests were held outside courthouses. His mother became one of the loudest voices in the campaign. Then in May 2024, at the Libertarian National Convention in Washington, D.C., a presidential candidate made a promise to crowd: Donald Trump. Courting libertarian voters, Trump stood on stage and pledged to free Russ Ulbricht if elected. On January 21, 2025, his first day back in the White House, Trump signed a full and unconditional pardon. He called Ulbricht's mother personally to tell her the news. Then he posted on Truth Social. He was given 2 life sentences, plus 40 years. Ridiculous. After 12 years in a federal maximum security prison in Colorado, Russ Ulbricht walked free. He was 41 years old. Today, he has emerged as a figure in the cryptocurrency and libertarian movements, one of the most controversial icons in the tech world, celebrated by some as a visionary who challenged government overreach, and condemned by others as a man whose platform helped flood communities with drugs. The debate is nowhere near settled. Here's what's hard about the Silk Road story. Russ Ulbricht believed he was doing something good. He believed he was creating a safer drug market, one where people could buy without violence, without street dealers, without the danger of the physical drug trade. And in some ways, researchers have found evidence he wasn't entirely wrong. Harm reduction advocates noted that Silk Road vendors were often more honest about what they were selling than street dealers. But $183 million worth of heroin, fentanyl, cocaine, and opioids flowing through anonymous mailboxes does not exist in a vacuum. People died. Families were destroyed. Addiction spread. And the man at the center of it all, a quiet physics student from Texas who wanted to change the world, ended up ordering what he believed was a murder to protect his secrets. Was it government overreach to sentence him to life? Or was life in prison the only appropriate response to what he built? One email. That's all it took. One moment where Russ Ulbricht forgot the rules he'd set for himself. One Gmail address with his real name that he posted publicly before he understood what he was building. A billion-dollar empire. Brought down by one email. If this one made you think, subscribe to Matrix. We go where the story actually leads. Hit the bell. New story dropping every week.